Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Ari Temkin, and this is Showtime right here on Phantom, the New World Order of Sports Media. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for being a part of today's show. We obviously have a lot to get to today with the Travis Frederick news, what it means for the Cowboys, why I certainly think something we talked about yesterday is there is a locker room availability, so excited about that because there's a lot, obviously, to learn about this and what everybody else has to say about it with the first media availability for the Dallas Cowboys since learning of this news about Travis Frederick. All right, so G. Garcia says, happy birthday, Ari. Thank you, G. I appreciate you saying that. I am 33 years old today. So, yeah, that's it. So post your comments. Hit me up in the comments. I'll be sure to get to them as soon as possible. I'm Ari Temkin. You can hear me do the pre- and post-game show along the Dallas Cowboys radio network on 105.3 The Fan. You can also see me streaming live every day right here to you, wherever you're watching, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, as part of the Phantom Network. Phantom is bringing live sports and live sports content to the digital spaces. So shout out to all of our partners at Phantom, the Dallas Cowboys America's team page, Silver and Blue Nation, Dallas Cowboys Report, Dallas Cowboys Really Real fan page, Dallas Cowboys Fans Club with the Z, Lawn Nation, Silver and Blue Nation, so all those great folks. And, of course, also broadcasting live across the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. So shout out to all you folks, great folks watching over there. And a reminder that if you aren't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so now. That would be great. Again, the YouTube channel is Watch Phantom, F-A-N-T-O-M. And real quickly, just trying to get there. All right, let's see here. Getting a lot of comments already on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. Charles Barnes, my buddy Joseph Candelaria, Raymond Solis. I did hear about Mark Holmes. They apparently shut down his YouTube page, but the good news is that Cowboy Joe Boo has a good Facebook following as well and can utilize our platform here at Phantom. So though he's down on YouTube, hopefully we can get that restored, and he'll be doing some broadcasts, I'm sure, on Facebook through Phantom as well. Rilt Thirdweg says still should be a good year. M. Bruce Wayne says, yo. Mark is not annoying. Mark's a good dude. You should get to know him. He's a good guy. He's different. Different takes. That's what you need. Different strokes for different folks. You know what I mean? Andy Kai says, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, happy birthday, guy. Appreciate that. John and Meg, and it's telling me who shares this, so and John and Meg is a sharer, so thank you for being a sharer. Eric Koshaney, Wade Zetterberg, Andy Kais, G. Garcia, will you be a sharer also? And everybody else. Let's see here. Yeah, people are commenting on Cowboy Joe Boo and Mark Holmes. Again, he'll be able to go live on Facebook in the interim while he gets this YouTube stuff figured out, so be sure to check out that. John and Meg says, do you see us going out and grabbing some O-line help till everyone figures out TF, or we good? That is absolutely the big piece of what I wanted to get to today. What Travis Frederick's illness means for the Cowboys. Let's see here. Joseph Candelaria on the Law Nation YouTube page says, so with Travis Frederick, I thought TF meant the F, but actually now I'm understanding it means Travis Frederick, which makes a lot of sense. With Travis Frederick out, possibly, do you think we can plug in Joe Looney, and are we okay? Also, Charles Barnes has some questions about the new additions at safety. Well, Charles, I mean, I brought this up. I'll really quickly get to this. I mean, they're camp bodies. You know, guys that were – there's 32 teams, 90 players in the roster. So guys that are unsigned at this point, I mean, they're camp bodies. Unless something – like there's a less than 1% chance that those guys are good enough to make this roster. At this point, the undrafted free agents that are on the current roster – the ones that are going to be on the roster. So, again, just want to make sure I'm addressing everybody's comments here. But, Charles, I mean, they look fine, but Deron Johnson and Dominic Sanders are not going to make this football team at this point. They're just bodies. All right, let's see. So, David Alejandre says, happy birthday. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. Okay, so yesterday, Travis Frederick, the Cowboys sent out a press release with a statement from Travis Frederick, and then Frederick then tweeted out the statement. I'm going to read to you the statement real quickly. And the statement is, after a very extensive examination discovery process over the past few weeks, I've been diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome, or GBS. Guillain-Barré syndrome, or GBS, which is an autoimmune disease. In the last 48 hours, I've received 2 treatments that address my condition, and I'm feeling much better from an overall strength perspective. I'll continue these treatments over the next few days. I'm very optimistic about my condition and the immediate future, as I've been told that the illness was detected at a fairly early stage by doctors who told me that it's not possible to determine a timetable for return to the field right now, but I'm hopeful that I'll be able to play as soon as possible. All right, so a lot there. And I think ultimately what that means is, though there should be optimism as far as, how long it will take him to recover, what the recovery process will be like, and there certainly could be a possibility in which Travis Frederick actually plays for the Dallas Cowboys this year. The Cowboys have to operate like he's not going to be available to them at any point this year. And I don't know if it's a Jason Garrett issue or if it's a Cowboys issue, but it seems like anytime they have a reality facing them, they sort of don't recognize that reality as being one. And I don't like Zeke Elliott's a great example of this from last year. Like if you knew the precedent that the NFL had set, that Zeke wasn't going to beat the NFL in the court of law. So they should have known and prepared for the entire season to not have Zeke for 6 or 7 games. And it was like last year, it was like, oh no, how'd that happen? We had no idea that Zeke was going to be gone. So it's like, again, I don't know if this is just a Jason Garrett thing, if it's a Dallas Cowboys thing, but like they have to go in with the assumption that Frederick is not going to play and be available for them this year. A couple of things with that. There's no replacing Travis Frederick. He's been a 4-time Pro Bowler. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's really cool. I have a green straw here. So it's like, there's the skyline of Dallas with this green there. Now I'm not. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Here we go. Look, I'm drinking out of that tower. But if the Cowboys could ever be in a position to replace a guy like Travis Frederick, I think they're in pretty decent position. Joe Looney's had a really good camp. There's been a lot of talk about him, and if you've been listening, as you should, all day to 105 through the fan, you're turn it on, leave it on station here in Dallas, or if you could stream it on the radio.com app, well, then you've heard that, Brian Broaddus has brought this up, and other people close to the Cow, like they are, and I imagine during this media availability with the players in the locker room that I'm going to go to later on this afternoon, that everybody's going to be crowding around Joe Looney he's going to be like a normal day around Tony Romo or Dak Prescott. But Sean Reagan says, I like the KU shirt, Ari. Thank you, Sean. Appreciate that. But he slimmed down. He lost some weight. I think, he did that with the intention of playing in the interior of the offensive line. He's had a good camp. He looked good in preseason week number 2. So they're not completely caught off guard by this. And they are in position to where probably their best backup offensive lineman in camp. I'd say that Looney's had a better camp so far than Cam Fleming. That they've got the right guy to step in and replace Travis Frederick. Again, Frederick is a 4-time Pro Bowler. He's started 80 consecutive games. That streak is going to come to an end on September 9th. But he's been reliable. He's been really, really good. He's not the best player on the Cowboys. I think that's Zach Martin. But he's in the top 5 of best players on the Cowboys. I mean, it's Martin, it's Sean Lee, it's Dak, it's Zeke, and Travis, and maybe Tyron Smith is in there too. Maybe you can replace Tyron with Sean Lee. At any rate, he's up there. I mean, he's one of the most important Cowboys. So it's basically impossible to replace a guy like that. But they are certainly in position to be able to do that. Not just because Joe Looney's had a good camp and he's slimmed down and he looks good and he's played and practiced with this group, so there's some familiarity there. But because they also have Tyron Smith at left tackle and they still have Zach Martin at right guard. The other thing is they're really fortunate. The Cowboys are really fortunate that they drafted Connor Williams in the 2nd round. Because if you start to think about, well, what would they have done at left guard if they didn't draft Connor Williams? Would they have liked what they saw from Looney, so they would have moved him to left guard, and he would. So again, who knows what would have happened had they not drafted Connor Williams? But it seems now like, man, that was a better move now, considering they seem to have some kind of depth at the guard position, and and it would have certainly tested, the interior of that offensive line if they lose Frederick, and now, they didn't have Connor Williams. So they're drafting Connor Williams, I think, works out really, really well for them. That ends up being a fantastic, fantastic move for them. All right, let's see here. Just trying to check out on all of the comments here across all the different platforms. Kerry Teagle says, "What's up, Ari? Are you a Jayhawk guy?" I am. I'm a proud graduate of the University of Kansas. And I told Dorrance Armstrong as much when I interviewed him during camp. And best part is, Kona Ely could make this team. He went to Mizzou, but Dorrance Armstrong is very much outperforming Kona Ely, which makes me happy. KU, Mizzou. Lee Payne says, "Go Cowboys, what up?" Let's see here. Robert Holm is in the house. And Kerry says, "It's what you have behind them that's of concern." Yeah, no, I agree. But, I mean, there are very few teams that can replace starting linemen. So for the Cowboys to have a pretty decent opportunity here with Looney to replace Frederick, and again, it's let's not overplay how important Travis Frederick is. And Looney's not Frederick. But they seem to be in as good of a position as you can be, and to replace a guy like Frederick, who started 80 straight games, who's not only started 80 straight games, but is a brilliant performer. He was left off the NFL's top 100 list, which is a joke, because he's one of the best centers in the NFL. There's I saw an article written about him, or something that was talking about him. It was basically saying, like, in Pro Football Focus, Travis Frederick has never been rated as the top center in the NFL as long as he's been in the NFL, but he's always been top 5. And I think two of the years he's been in the NFL, he's been 2. But every year he's been in the NFL, he's been top 5, and the number 1 player has been a guy, like, it's changed every year. So it shows you the unbelievable consistency. That it shows you the unbelievable consistency that he's had, especially because you look at some guys at the center position have career years and then never regain form after that. With Frederick, though, he's always been there. So that just shows you how good and consistent he's been. By the way, if you're watching this, please do me a favor and hit the share button no matter where you're watching this from. It would really help me out to reach as wide of an audience as we can possibly reach. So, one, if you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button. If you're on Facebook, hit the share button. All right, let's see here. Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Just to make sure, this is not the Dan Orlovsky, right? This is not the backup quarterback, former. I'm assuming it's not. I just wanted to make sure. It's just a coincidence, right? But Dan Orlovsky in the comments. Let's see here. Any new update on Travis? No, and again, I will be going to the Cowboys media availability at the Star in Frisco. They're going to have an open locker room after this stream today. So I'll give you an update tomorrow during showtime at noon Central from what I hear in the locker room. But Dallas Morning News spoke with Dr. Spencer Miller, who is a neurologist at Baylor Med Center in Dallas. And, he basically he's not the one treating Travis, but basically said, look, the recovery is, quote, a prolonged recovery of at least a couple of weeks and then months of rehab and rest. He said 1/3 of patients that have GBS show signs of recovery within 2 weeks. 1/3 show recovery within 4 weeks, and then the last third show recovery up to 3 months. But here's the deal with Travis. You could be the most optimistic about it and say, well, he might show signs of recovery within 2 weeks. But the thing is, and this is the quote you should pay attention to. He says, because of the physical toll of football, he'll need to err on the side of caution when it comes to getting back to working out, when it comes to resuming sort of normal football activities. He said, quote, it could slow down his recovery or hasten reoccurrence if he overdrives his body early in the recovery period. So the Cowboys, they're going to err on the side of caution. He's going to be out for months. They say it could be 2 to 4 months. Again, the Cowboys have to assume they're not going to have Travis Frederick this season. That is the best road for them to take, because then they can approach this season as if they've Joe Looney's going to play this season. They've got to then see if will they keep Kadeem Edwards? Will they go and scour the waiver wire after final cutdowns and potentially bring in somebody that gets cut that is they think could be valuable as an interior backup offensive lineman? They just cannot. They cannot be under the assumption or belief that Travis Frederick is going to be back at some point this season, because at least even if you're the most optimistic, you don't. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. That's at least my opinion on it. Let's see here. What else is everybody else saying? Jay Navarro says, I know I sound like a broken record, but trading for ET will make this negative news fly by. I actually have a point on that, more than just like making the negative news fly by, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Get well, Fredericks. You're strong. Cowboys will win for you. Rob Garcia says, hello. Yeah, Jay, I got it. No coincidence. Daniel J. Orlovsky, the original. So you're not the former quarterback. Well, I digress. All right, let's see here on the Phantom page. They should keep the media away. Why? Don't you want information about this? Why should they keep the media away? From who? I mean, it's not like Frederick's going to be in the locker room to be doing a media availability. So why should they keep the media away, Tyler? Don't you want information on the Cowboys and Frederick? People are constantly asking me, what's the latest on Frederick? What's the latest on these? If they keep the media away, then there's no information. Cutright says, Looney has always looked solid. I mean, no Frederick, but it's very serviceable. Yeah, again, I think that they appear to be in okay position to replace him. Well, performing in training camp in the preseason is one thing, but being able to do that in the regular season is a different story altogether. John Dyer says, will Rico Gathers be getting snaps at center? He's so dynamic. I appreciate that very much, John, but probably not. He's not a good blocker, as you know, so probably problematic if you're trying to play center and not be able to block. Ryan Kelleher says, hi, happy birthday from the UK. Appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you. Also, Jessica Haggerty says, happy birthday. Thank you, Jessica. I appreciate that. That's coming through the Silver and Blue Nation page. Checking in now on the Dallas Cowboys report page. Let's see. Nobody's commenting there. Fine. Keep it that way then. Let's see here. The Dallas Cowboys Really Real fan page. Let me check out that stream, see what's going on over there. No comments over there. Cool. I think that's all of them, at least for now, right? And then the Phantom page. Joe Deasy says, I'm not convinced that we can't get a free agent offensive lineman that's good but not signed. Bring in Nick Mangold. I mean, I think the best bet to bring in somebody from outside the organization would be to wait till final cutdowns and then find somebody there. There's a few guys that have retired, and I just, for me, if they're not in somebody's camp right now, there's probably a reason for it, but maybe not. I mean, Des Bryant's not, and he's still a good enough player, so perhaps. Nelson Alcala says our season is over 8-8. I don't know that this is making me more and more pessimistic about the Cowboys' chances this year, and I've originally predicted them at 10-6, but if they lose Martin, and I know they're optimistic about Martin. He's going to start. He's going to be ready to start. But again, as I've mentioned, bone bruise, continuing to play. I mean, he doesn't have enough time between now and the start of the year where he's going to have a full recovery. So you hope that he can overcome whatever wear and tear he's going to have impact him. But I mean, again, that to me, like Frederick is perhaps something they can overcome. Perhaps. I'm willing to buy it and still pick them to be a playoff team. But Frederick and Martin, plus we don't know about Tyron Smith's back, like that's not going to work. That's not going to work. And John Dyer, good point. Everybody said he says everybody go donate to Canines for Warriors for Ari's birthday. Yeah, if you're friends with me on Facebook, I've shared this really cool charity that I'm doing donations for. It's actually like I think people look at Facebook as being really evil, and Mark Zuckerberg as being very evil. But something they do that's really cool is they do these donation campaigns during birthdays, and so I mean and they don't. By the way, they don't take any money from the money donated, which you might be like, well, of course not. But I mean, that's not true for like GoFundMe or a lot of these other types of pages where you can collect money for charity events. Like a lot of those other pages will take funds from the donations, which is absurd. So it's a really cool deal that Facebook does, and you can just see the impact it has in so many different charities. Canines for Warriors, by the way, I don't know if everybody watching this knows this, but 22 veterans commit suicide every day. 22 veterans of the armed services commit suicide every day. 22 every single day. So Canines for Warriors, what they do is incredible. They take in stray dogs or dogs that are donated to them. They put them through this rigorous training where they are lifesavers, these dogs. And then they hook veterans up with these highly trained dogs that are proven to help veterans who are dealing with PTSD and symptoms with PTSD. They're incredible. A good friend of mine is Uncle Chaps from Barstool Sports. He's a veteran, an Iraq War veteran, who, when I was doing work with him, told me, I was like, what's your favorite charity when it comes to veterans and veteran services? He told me about Canines for Warriors. I've been trying to donate as much as I possibly can, as often as I can. So help me help Canines for Warriors and help veterans. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. 22. It's insane. We say that we support our troops. We say it all the time. Do we really? 22 veterans commit suicide every day. Don't just say you support your troops. Go support them through monetary donations. Check out my Facebook page, Ari Temkin. Friend me, and I've got a link there where you can donate right there. So thanks for the reminder, John Dyer. Appreciate that very, very, very much. Nathan Kerman says, happy birthday, Ari. Thank you, thank you. Eric Kashani says, the safety problem is still the most worrying. Eric, you're wrong. Sorry. You're wrong, Eric. The safety position is not the most worrying. The offensive line has become the most worrisome position for the Cowboys because it's the best positional group for the Cowboys, and yet now it's not, or it could not. It might not be. Again, Frederick is great. Frederick's great. He's one of the 5 or 6 best players on the Cowboys. So, I don't want to just be flippant about, Looney has done well in camp, can replace him because Frederick's great, but at least they appear to be in position to be able to replace Travis Frederick right now because of Looney. But they can't sustain the loss of Tyron Smith and Zach Martin. I mean, you're just not going to be able to. Because it's certainly not necessarily about individual performance on the line. It's about the cohesiveness of the group. And, they've been trying to establish cohesiveness now with Connor Williams being the new guy, and now it's Joe Looney. And it's early enough to where I buy into it, the fact that they might be able to. But it's still it's difficult. All right, let's see here. My Cowboys family is checking me out at the Law Nation 2.0 page. Let's see here. We need our defense to really help our offense for now. We need them to be a top 5 defense. They might be true about that. Looney always looked bad, but he definitely looks better now than ever in years past. But can he handle 16 games? Not confident in that happening. Look, he's slimmed down. He from all accounts looks like a different player. Now it's a good point. Can he play and be available for 16 weeks? That remains to be seen, and that's the most important dynamic for this Cowboys' success this season. But it's going to be tough. All right, let's see here. Brian Levram says, do they get treatment or is it simply rest? Curious of when the clock starts. So there's 2 treatments based on what Travis Frederick, there's 2 types of treatments. Based on what Travis Frederick said, it looks like he's getting what's being referred to as intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, which I believe is just a blood transfusion. I believe it's 5 consecutive days of cycling out his blood and putting in new blood. I believe that's what it is. But that starts the clock on recovery, although you're talking about your body turns against you and starts attacking your nerves. So even when you replace the blood, I'm guessing there's still a grace period involved there. But the bottom line, again, is here's the most important thing. Even if they're going to err on the side of caution, because as Dr. Spencer Miller, who spoke with the Dallas Morning News, who's a neurologist at Baylor Med Center in Dallas, quote, he said, because of the physical toll of football, he'll need to err on the side of caution. Quote, it could slow down his recovery or hasten reoccurrence if he overdrives his body early in recovery period. So, those are things where now you start talking about missing multiple seasons, never coming back as the same player. So, the Cowboys have to operate like Travis Frederick is not going to be available this year. That's just how they have to operate. And best case scenario, he does come back this year. But I don't think that's the case because, again, the sport he plays, the physical nature of the sport, and the importance of working out and heavy workouts and then playing in games, it's right there in the quote. It could slow down his recovery or hasten reoccurrence, meaning it could come back, which only happens in about every 200,000 patients who have GBS. So there is no need to rush him back in any capacity whatsoever, because now you're talking about the potential to have long-term damage reoccurrence where he could be he might not be the same player. And it could, now it's a this year problem right now, but you bring it back too quickly, and it can become a problem for the future too. Lamar Hans says, any training camp casualties that may help the boys? We'll see. Cut downs. I believe what they'll do is either I think they might keep 9 offensive linemen is my guess, but 8 on the roster now, and then a 9th that it becomes a camp casualty. Remember, they used to do multiple camp cutdowns over the course of training camp. Now they just do one after the final preseason game 2 weeks from today. Thursday in Houston. So that Friday is final cut down. You have to be down to 53. At that point, I think the Cowboys will scour the waiver wire and see if there's anybody from an interior lineman standpoint that fits the bill. Can the Cowboys go 10-6 and won't be enough to win the division? From Richard Naylor. I'm sure they can go 10-6. It's my initial prediction. If Tyron Smith misses significant time because of the back issue, if Zach Martin misses time, they're not making the playoffs. I mean, it's very difficult to believe that a team that's built upon the success of their offensive line and running game could make the playoffs. Not just missing Frederick, but also missing Zach Martin and Frederick, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, and Frederick. That's just too much to face reality at this point. Plus, the Eagles overcame injuries last year. They overcame an injury to their center. They overcame an injury to their middle linebacker, to their quarterback. Jason Garrett hasn't proven to be a coach that's able to overcome injuries. Let's be real about it. Jason Garrett as head coach has not proven an ability to overcome injuries. And even worse about it is, so the Cowboys preach next man up. Next man up. It's about those guys coming in to perform. And yet when they suffer injuries and fail because of it, Jason Garrett's the first guy to be like, but here are my excuses. I've come to you with a boatload of excuses. Here, take my excuses. I'm holding all of my excuses out here for you to take. I mean, he's the excuse machine, despite the fact that he always says, I'm not an excuse guy. But he is. He is. And especially, even more so, because they the Cowboys always love to talk about the next man up, but yet when they suffer injuries, Jason Garrett's the first guy at the end of the day when they, go 8-8 or worse than that. Well, it's like, we just couldn't overcome these injuries. Well, what about your next man up BS that you keep spewing? It's infuriating that a coach could continually get away with making excuses despite the fact that he says he doesn't want to make excuses and he's a non-excuse kind of guy, because he is. It's BS. Jason Garrett is a full excuse, everything's the product of excuses kind of coach. My wife says happy birthday. Appreciate you saying that, honey. Chris Bennett says happy birthday. Thank you, CB. We should have paid Leary 2 years ago from Joe Deasy. You can rewrite history there, but in hindsight, yes. But I still think, given the circumstances at the time, it was the right move. Neil Favre says a really important question, which is maybe way too early now, but does Frederick's illness change next year's draft strategy? Certainly should. Certainly should. And same with, Tyron Smith's bad back. I know somebody was earlier in the comments mentioning about Tyron Smith and, has his back been acting up, but the reality of it is when you have a bad back, it doesn't get better. The older you get, the worse your back. If you have a bad back, you have a bad back for the rest of your life. Especially if you're a big dude like Tyron Smith, and especially if you play football. So, it's not necessarily about can Tyron Smith stay healthy. It's can he be healthy enough to suit up and play in 16 games? Because he's going to have a bad back this year. Dallas Cowboys America's team is checking in on the stream on Phantom. What's up, Dallas Cowboys America's team? He says, can Jason what? Eric Conejo gives me the thumbs up. Thumbs up, Eric Conejo. Joe Tranchina says, what's the news on Zach Martin's knee injury? It's a bone bruise. They're optimistic about it. But again, I don't think when you have an injury in the NFL and you're okay enough to play through the injury, that injury is not going to get better over the course of the season. That's ridiculous. If you've every single play is a car crash. Games are just take an insane toll on your body. So he's going to have a bad knee all year. He's not going to have enough rest between now and the start of the season to where the bone bruise will fully heal. At least that's my indication of it. So again, sort of like Tyron Smith, you hope that he can get his back in position to be, good enough to be able to play in 16 games. Same for Zach Martin. And if that's the case, the Cowboys can be still pretty good this year. If it's not, though, forget about the playoffs. I don't know what else to say. They're built to weather their offensive line and their running game. And if they don't have guys that make their offensive line all pro, then they're not going to be good. It's just that simple. Keith Batchelor says, 4 days in a row you skipped my comment, about to quit sharing. What was your comment, Keith? I'm sorry. They're coming quite fast and furious, man. What was your comment, Keith? And the best page to comment on is the Phantom Facebook page. I'm trying to navigate all the different pages that we're streaming this to, but if you really want to get your comment noticed, go to facebook.com/watch Phantom, subscribe there. And, again, I'm making an effort to get to everybody's comments across all these platforms and trying to go to YouTube and Facebook and all the pages, trying to get everybody's comments answered, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, especially because on some pages there's more comments than others, so it's harder to catch up with some of the comments, especially the great folks over on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. So, Keith, thank you for sharing. I will try to get to your comment as soon as I see it, but you said I passed your comment and now I can't see it from previously, so just repost your comment and I'll get to it, buddy. All right, let's see here. Silver and Blue Nation, gonna recheck out that page. Anybody commenting there? It doesn't look like it. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see here. Law Nation's Facebook page. And I'm going to get back to the Law Nation YouTube page here in a moment. Kerry Teagle agrees. Drafting Connor couldn't have been a better move. Totally agree. What's been the word on the new backup center from Robert Home on the Law Nation page? Worst case scenario, Beard out for a season. Best case, week 1. Thought I could say best case 3 to 4. Have a blessed birthday from Robert Home. Thank you. Travis Frederick's not going to be available to play week 1. Travis Frederick is not going to be available to play, I would think, until at least, a few months into the season. But again, Dr. Spencer Miller, neurologist at Baylor Med Center in Dallas, said because of the physical toll of football, he'll need to err on the side of caution. Quote, it could slow down his recovery or hasten recurrence if he overdrives his body early in the recovery period. So, the last thing they want to do is he is definitely not going to play in the first month of the year. And if he does, then it's either an unbelievable recovery or he's putting himself at a great risk to slow down recovery or worse, have this thing come back, which could, dramatically impact his future career. All those things to me say, you'd rather lose this season than multiple seasons after this. He's still young. He just signed a big long-term extension. There is no reason to throw away multiple seasons. I would err more on the side of caution than anything else. Jay Navarro says, Ari always gets to my comments. He probably just didn't see yours. By the way, happy birthday, Ari. Thank you, Jay. And that's true. It is true. I did not do it out of any malicious intent. I'm trying to get to everybody's comments across all these different platforms. I know there's people on YouTube right now that are like, hey, where are my comments? So let me go over to YouTube on the Law Nation 2.0 page, where there's a lot of activity going on there. Let's see here. Connor Williams will have more issues, though, with Travis helping him without Travis helping him to his right. Nervous about the left run A-gap and pass protection from the left A-gap. Eagles have Howie Roseman and Peterson. Yeah. Cowboys are – I like the Cowboys front office dynamic. I do. The people that think that Jerry Jones is running the show are wrong. Will McClay has important input. Everybody has important input. And the way they've drafted over the last decade, Will McClay and his personnel staff have done a fantastic job. So, Roseman's a really good GM. I think the Cowboys are fine. I think the Cowboys are in a really good position with their GM. Not so much with their head coach. And I want to get to that in a little bit. The other thing is, and I know Joseph Candelaria wants to know about Earl Thomas. So, it's funny because people in the comments as I've done these streams over the course of, this offseason and in training camp have been first when Kayvon Frazier had the potential issues with hemophilia. If you remember early on in training camp, you had to see a doctor about that. And so people were like, with Kayvon Frazier, do you think this now, gives you a greater need to go out and get Earl Thomas? And I was like, no, not really. And the reason for that is because there was always a need to get Earl Thomas. You don't have the personnel going into training camp that make you comfortable about that position there's not a greater need. There was always a great need, and they didn't fulfill it. So you have an injury to Frazier. It's not a greater need. It's always been a great need. But here's the thing, and same thing with Xavier Woods. It's it's not a greater need. It's always been a really big need. To me, you should have gone for Earl Thomas in a big way because I would rather have him starting than Xavier Woods. So the Woods injury doesn't enhance that need. It only just continues to mean there's a need. However, and I know that my Cowboys family brought this up on YouTube, but because now there's concerns about how good they can be on offense, and we believe based on what we've seen that they have the potential to have a really good defense, especially front seven. Now I think there's a greater need to go out and get Earl Thomas. Now I do. With the loss of Travis Frederick, I believe the Cowboys now have a greater need to go out and get Earl Thomas because they're built to win on offense, but with the way that their defense has looked in training camp so far, especially their front seven, plus there's really good encouragement with their secondary. Like the only, I mean, now you're talking about going out and getting a future Hall of Famer in Earl Thomas, and a guy that's still playing at a high level, is still a perennial All-Pro. I mean, he's still one of the top 3 free safeties in the NFL. So, I mean, you want to talk about solidifying your team as having a top 5 defense, that does that. And now there's a greater need in order to do that because there's major question marks along your offensive line. So how successful will Zeke be? And consequently, then how successful will Dak be able to be because of that? There's a dramatic domino effect that now losing Travis Frederick will have on your roster. So I do think there's now a greater need to get Earl Thomas, not because of any of the injuries along their secondary, along the safety position, because he was always a guy needed from a personnel standpoint. But now because of Travis Frederick, and again, if you're the Cowboys, you have to assume he's not going to play this year. That's just the assumption you have to go off of. You have to plan that way. And if he does come back, it's great news, but you have to assume he's not going to be able to. Cool, my straw is mixing it with the green screen because it's a green straw. That's kind of cool. But as John Dyer says, go get Earl. Go get Earl. Do it. And I know I heard, some people on 105 to the Fan, I think it was Kavanaugh mentioned this. It's like, well, no, because now if you want to trade a second, isn't that where you go and get a center? And I mean, maybe, but to me, I would rather, I'd rather go get Earl with the second. If the second round pick gets me Earl Thomas today, I'd rather go do that than, think about drafting a center in the second round of next year's draft. Because I mean, look, there's a lot of time between now and the NFL draft in April of 2019, but I mean, what if you do what you did with Travis Frederick in the first place? And, because centers aren't first-round picks traditionally. But, I mean, you trade back in the end of the first, beginning of the second kind of thing, maybe pick up some extra picks, and then get your center there. Especially if you trade your second for Earl, then you trade back in the first, potentially back, in the second round, you then pick up perhaps an additional second because of it. Now, all of a sudden, you might have a way to, sort of trade for Earl, but then also, enhance your ability to then potentially replace the interior of your offensive line. But again, if they take the Frederick situation cautiously and treat it conservatively, then this is a thing that at worst will have a miss one season. With the recovery of being back to complete normalcy, being back by the time they get back into training camp next year. Curtis Stark says, well, you said a mouthful. Go get Earl Thomas. We need him for now more than ever. Agreed. Keith Batcher never told me what his comment was, and I can't scroll up enough to see what it was. I'm sorry, Keith. Can we still be friends? Let's see here. Eric Koscielny says, it's one of them things you have to test for directly. If he didn't have symptoms until now, it could be easily. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if Mark Schlereth, who is an all-pro offensive lineman, said he suffered this injury, this illness in '93. The thing is, though, he played through it because he didn't know. I think he kind of just was like, I think I'll be all right, and played through it. So if you heard his interview on 105 to the Fan, and if you didn't, go check it out at 105tothefan.com. But I mean, he was basically saying like if he walked up the stairs, he'd have to then like lay down for an hour because that was just how bad it was on his body. Now again, that seemed to be a case where he was playing in the NFL, through those symptoms, and it was 93 medical science is not even. I mean you're talking about the Stone Age basically in that much time being passed since 1993. I mean that's how far medical science has advanced since then, but still. Harold Orozco says, I can't take you seriously wearing that Jayhawk shirt. Cowboys, brah. What's wrong? The Jayhawks don't play the Cowboys. What's wrong with the Cowboys? There's a lot of... what's wrong with the Jayhawks? Why can't you take... Dorrance Armstrong is a promising pass rusher for the Cowboys. He's a Jayhawk. What's the problem? What's the problem, Harold? All right, let's see what else has got... What else has everybody got going on? But ultimately, what I wanted to say about... yesterday I made the point that if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, they're going to fire Jason Garrett. And I think now people look at this and say, oh, man, does this change that? Does the injury to Frederick, the fact that he's probably going to miss the entire season, does that change the math on Jason Garrett losing his job? And it might. It shouldn't. But it might. Because we know that Jerry loves Jason and he wants to create an environment for Jason to be successful. I mean, every time they have a losing season, it's like, they make these excuses for why the previous year didn't go right, and then, well, this year will be different. Here's the thing that bothers the hell out of me, and should if you're a Cowboys fan too. In the NFL, it is very rare, in fact, you might even say impossible, that everything goes your way. It just doesn't happen. Injuries happen. What's happening to the Cowboys right now might seem like, oh, woe is us. It's like, but this happens to teams. These are things that happen. Okay, this might be a rare disease we're talking about here, but injuries, like, nothing is going to go perfectly, ever. And yet it's like when the Cowboys have this opportunity to make excuses for why things didn't go perfectly for them, they take it. And it should bug the crap out of you if you're a Cowboys fan. It should bug the absolute crap out of you. Because no team goes through a season unscathed with injuries. If you recall, the Packers, when they won the Super Bowl in Dallas, they had an entirely new offensive line. It's just, look at the Eagles last year. It's just insane that Cowboys fans continue to eat these excuses, and maybe they don't, but it just seems like the Cowboys continue to feed these excuses as if they're legitimate, and yet, we're supposed to buy them as if you're not supposed to be able to overcome those excuses. Hire a coach that's better at evolving and has a better ability to evolve within a game over the course of games, so that every damn year he doesn't talk about how he's not no excuses kind of coach, while at the same time simultaneously making BS excuses. It's infuriating. John Dyer says the Eagles winning the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback should have blown up this mentality. And without Jordan Hicks, their middle linebacker, and without, their left tackle, right? One of their most, either the center or their left tackle, I can't remember. They were missing so many important pieces. And it's like, my Cowboys family on YouTube is like, well, that's the Eagles and it's Roseman and Peterson. And it's like, why are we accepting that, like, well, they just have a better coach? And maybe we're not accepting it, but we have to accept it because it's reality, and there's really nothing we can do about it, and we can bitch and moan as much as we want, but there's nothing that's going to change it. And maybe that's the truth. But I'm so sick and tired of the Cowboys telling me, and Jason Garrett in particular, that he doesn't want to make excuses while simultaneously making excuses. Stop making excuses. Or then either stop telling me you don't make excuses, because you do. You make excuses all the time. Every year things go south for you. You walk up to me with a handful of excuses. Here are my excuses. Do you buy them? Do you buy excuses? You shouldn't buy excuses anymore. Stop buying excuses. Teams overcome things. Nothing goes perfectly. Nothing will ever go perfectly in the NFL. Nothing will ever go perfectly in life. Chaos ensues. Overcome the adversity. Guys and teams that can overcome adversity are the ones that win every single year. Eric Kashani says depth chart is there for a reason. Peters, thank you, G. Garcia. Jason Peters was their left tackle that missed. They missed their left tackle, their starting quarterback, and their middle linebacker, and they won a damn Super Bowl. And the Cowboys are like, oh, we don't have this guy. How can we win? Oh, God, it's got to be infuriating if you're a Cowboys fan, isn't it? Isn't it? Depth chart is there for a reason, next man up. And that's, again, Jason Garrett loves the next man up. How can you love saying next man up if you're a head coach, and then when a guy goes down, you're like, well, we didn't have Zeke. What were we supposed to do? I don't know. You talk about next man up, then what's the problem? Joe Tranchina says Jimmy Johnson had his team ready to play no matter who was injured. Yep. I think Chris Richard could win with injuries to starters. I don't know. I do know that Jason Garrett can't. Jason Marufo says if we don't make the playoffs this season, he will be fired. Hand down, Jerry Jones loves winning more. Yeah, I hope you're right. I do. Because I'm sick and tired of Jason Garrett. I hope you're right. Marty Swift and other people are asking me about what if a potential trade for Earl Thomas. Look, I don't know. I think the Cowboys have offered a third. I think the Seahawks have countered with a second. My opinion is go do that trade. But I don't know if the Cowboys picked up the phone right now and said, okay, we'll give you a second, if they would say okay. So and I'm not giving up a first. I mean, I barely want to give up a second, but at this point, I would. I would. Mm, um, Wayne Bledsoe says, so what do we do? Give up, not play a game? That's not what I'm saying at all, man. What I'm saying is, I mean, have a better coach that game plans better and doesn't just can evolve more, can evolve and grow within a game over the course of games, and that would basically mean that Jason Garrett would have to grow and become a better head coach, which I don't think he's capable of, but at least I've got some confidence that perhaps he can. Troy Aikman would be a great coach from the Dallas Cowboys Americas team. D-Cat for life. I don't know about that, but I mean, I guess I'd be willing to buy Heat being a good coach over Garrett, because I'm just not a big fan of Jason Garrett. All right, I'm checking back on the Law Nation 2.0 YouTube page. Barry B says Jason Garrett coaches like a college coach. Absolutely, I completely agree. I mean, he even comes from the Nick Saban tree, which, Nick Saban wasn't successful in the NFL, but he's unbelievably successful in college. And the Cowboys have the second youngest roster in the NFL, I believe, or the youngest roster, one of the two youngest rosters in the NFL. They didn't make this roster Dak friendly as much as they say they did. They made this roster Jason Garrett friendly, because it's rah-rah, it's win-win for the Gipper. When you look at coaches, they all have different boxes they check off, right? Like X's and O's, schematics, ability to motivate. Garrett doesn't check off very many of those boxes, but certainly one he does is the ability to motivate, which is great. It's the X's and O's, the ability to evolve. That's the kind of stuff he's not great at. He doesn't check out, and to me, that's a fatal flaw of a coach. David Short says Garrett's an empty polo shirt. He talks the talk of a great head coach, but it's just talk. Happy birthday, Ari. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. No, the way I describe Jason Garrett as a head coach is he projects. You know how they say dress for the job you want? That's Jason Garrett as a coach. Jason Garrett is a dress for the job you want kind of coach. He projects this aura of being Jimmy Johnson without being Jimmy Johnson. Like he dresses for the job that he wants, but he's not that. Chris Bennett says, "Have you seen the Dak pick?" I have not. I'm not interested in dick pics. Just me. My Cowboys family says, LOL, you guys seen us saying this 24/7 about Carrot and his BS stance at the start of our channel a year ago. I did not, but I mean, if you look at the Cowboys objectively, you'll see this with Jason Garrett. I mean, it's I think he can come up with decent game plans, but then evolving and deviating from that game plan within a game, he can't do that. He's incapable of doing that. Like, he's the type of coach where it's like, there's this old saying in sports that says if you listen to the GM, if you listen to the fans, sooner or later you end up sitting with them. But with the Cowboys, specific to Jason Garrett, it's like the fans know the change they should make before Garrett does. Like, look at the Atlanta game last year. Like, fans are screaming, do something else, and it was like, what do you want me to, like, Chip, bring somebody else over. Try Ryan Russell. Like, it's just mind-boggling how the best coaches and organizations in sports can see what's around the bend. They can do that. The worst organizations in sports are like, they pass it by and they're like, what did we miss? And that's Jason Garrett. He can't see what's around the bend. He can barely see what's in front of him. Oh, does Chaz Green need help at left tackle? Does he? What do you guys think? So I know he's a good motivator. He is. Jason Garrett's a good motivator. I think he's good at designing game plans going into a game. I know he's not good at evolving within a game. And I know, I absolutely know that he's not good at evolving game to game, meaning, like, he kind of has this game plan that he goes into a game with, and, like, the next game, he kind of wants the same thing, despite their inefficiencies or inadequacies. Let's see here. Carrot Boy is dumb. Yeah. My Cowboys family says, Ari, Carrot will use this issue on the O-line and JJ will allow it. Man, I hope so. I hope not. I really do, because I just don't know how you can, like, every year say you don't want to make excuses and then make excuses. I don't know how you can do that. Then stop saying you don't make excuses or you don't want to make excuses, because you clearly want to make excuses, because you're clearly making excuses. The want. To me, that, like, I am a non-excuses kind of person. I am. So I can't stand it when people say that they're a no excuses kind of person and then they make excuses. It's like it kills me. It kills me. Let's see here. David Short says, as a coach or GM, it's not good to be optimistic. You have to be pragmatic. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, be flexible. Well said. Would you say that Jason Garrett can be described that way? I mean, and this is the Frederick thing, like, and the Zach Martin thing, and this is why their starters need to be playing on Sunday night. Like, oh, well, we don't want to play them behind a patchwork offensive line because we're worried about their health. Well, what happens if that patchwork offensive line becomes your offensive line, which now we think it will be, at least partially? They have to operate under the assumption that Frederick's not going to come back this year. Will they? I don't know. John and Meg say, love the Garrett impersonations. LOL. Jason Garrett just gets at my core because he's just such a conservative BS head coach. He's just like the majority of head coaches in the NFL. It's something I talked about yesterday. Apparently everybody on the Elon Nation 2.0 saw the Dak picks, which, I don't know. I guess, just let me know that they're out there. I don't really have to see them. Players make Garrett look better than he is, and that's from my Cowboys family. That's the thing is, like, to win a Super Bowl in the NFL, you have to have a good coach. Talent can get you far. Like, talent can get you 13 wins. It can. But to win a Super Bowl, you have to be a good head coach, because to win in the playoffs, you have to be able to evolve game plans and evolve within a game, and Garrett can't do that. But then when they lose a game, it's like, you lose to the Packers game. The Dez catching on catch is a great example of this, right? Like, they didn't lose the Dez game because of the catching on catch. That's what you all have to understand. They lost that game because Aaron Rodgers couldn't stand on 2 feet and they couldn't sack him. Well, if they install a game plan that's aggressive, getting after the quarterback, bringing multiple guys, then it might be a different outcome. Well, Marinelli and Jason Garrett can come back at me and say, well, you want to send extra guys and put your corners on an island one-on-one against Aaron Rodgers? Yeah, I do. Because I don't know if you noticed the game, but he still beat you over and over again. So at some point when a guy's playing on one leg and you can't sack him, like, that's why you lost the game. And the Dez catch on catch gives them a great excuse, but the reality was they weren't aggressive enough getting after a guy that was playing on 1 foot. And again, the counter to that is, well, I mean, then you put your corners on an island. Well, who cares? You were losing those battles anyways. Who cares? All right, I got to get out of here. I got to get over to the facility at the Star in Frisco to see what's going on in that locker room. Make sure to join us again tomorrow, noon Central. If you like what we're doing here at Phantom, support our sponsors. BetDSI is one of our great sponsors. So go sign up for an account at betdsi.com. It's only a game until you bet. Use promo code PHANTOM, F-A-N-T-O-M, and what betdsi.com does when you use promo code PHANTOM is they give you 100% of your initial deposit. So if you make an initial deposit of $100, then BetDSI will give you another $100 to play with. So that's what I did. So go to betdsi.com, use promo code PHANTOM. Like this video if you drink energy drinks like Ari, LOL. It's coffee. It's coffee is what it is. It's a lot of coffee. So go to betdsi.com, use promo code PHANTOM, and get started there. Our other sponsor, which I'm hoping it will switch to at some point here soon, is, there we go. Did it switch? Is SeatGeek. Look at that. It's SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and sign up using promo code PHANTOM. What's cool is create an account, and if you want to go see the Sunday night game this Sunday at AT&T Stadium, go look for tickets. They've got 300 level third-row seats for $60 a piece. You're not going to get in with those kinds of seats at the 50 for cheaper than that. Plus, you go to SeatGeek.com, use promo code PHANTOM, and buy those seats, $120 for a pair. You get $20 off your first order. So whether you want to buy games for the third preseason game this Sunday night, or you want to buy seats for the regular season, or you want to buy concert seats, or you want to buy, you don't live in Dallas, you can't go to Cowboys games, you want to buy baseball, whatever you want to buy. You want to buy tickets? Go to SeatGeek.com, sign up for an account, use promo code Phantom. They're going to give you $20 off your first order. All right, again, I'm back tomorrow at noon Central right here on Phantom. I will try to talk slower tomorrow, but when it comes to my dislike of Jason Garrett, I talk really fast. Anyways, thank you all